Tisha wapangaji pesa.
Token machine ni yangu ama ni yako?
Ni ya Kenya Power kwanza, lakini kwanza wametupatia tuna nini?
Very good. Inakuchanga direct kwa nyumba yako ama inakuja kwa nyumba yangu?
Inakuja kwa nyumba yangu, lakini
very nice. Sasa ujinga ni nini unaniletea hapa?
Swali ngoje ujibiwe.
Wewe ni wewe nauliza hata wewe. Nikieleza hii mahakama unanipenda na unanikatianga na mimi nikakataa, ndio unakuja kuniweka kwa mimi shida yote, nitakuwa naeleza mahakama urongo. Sasa kweli clear.
Hiyo ni uongo.
I know you love me. What are you waiting here asking me silly questions?
Am I asking silly questions?
Yeye anakuuliza maswali ama wewe ndio unamuuliza?
Ndio hiyo sasa.
Alafu wewe ndio unauliza silly questions.
Yes.
Good afternoon. You are in time for the Lunchtime News. It is the 10th day in the month of July 2024. We have the latest developments making headlines locally and also across the borders. Let's interact on all our social media platforms at KBC Channel 1. My name is Irene Muchuma. On sign language interpretation, we have Brian Muraru. Out of focus this afternoon, two of the protesters accused of looting and destroying property worth 300 million shillings in Chieni supermarket during the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 protests have been released on bail by Ananyuki Court. Joyce Wangui Maina and Peter Mwangi Wagai were freed after resident magistrate E.D. Deche okayed their release on a cash bail of 20,000 shillings or a bond of 50,000 shillings with a surety of a similar amount. The magistrate noted the court did not find compelling reasons to continue detaining the suspects. The matter will be mentioned on July 16th, 2024.
Admitted to a cash bail of 20,000 with an additional of two contact persons each who shall deposit a copy of their national identity cards and KRA PIN certificates in court and shall guarantee the attendance of each of the respondents to court, and failure to present them, they shall be required to pay a fine of shillings 50,000 and in default are to face an imprisonment term of up to 6 months. The respondents are to report to the investigating officer or officers and shall be required of them for the purpose of completing the said investigation.
Our colleagues have been able to be released on a cash bail of 20,000 each with two sureties, and we are waiting for next week to see what the DCI will bring on the table after they have concluded with the investigations.
Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission has expressed dissatisfaction over the recent amendments by the Senate to the Conflict of Interest Bill 2023. According to EACC spokesperson Eric Ngobi, these amendments, if enacted into law, could significantly weaken the country's fight against corruption. Speaking in Tharaka Nithi County, Ngobi highlighted that the Senate's alterations have scrapped crucial provisions while introducing new clauses that could shield government officials and their families from tax obligations. This move, he argued, undermines the integrity of public procurement processes and hampers efforts to hold officials accountable for their financial dealings.
The amendments that were introduced by the Senate are inimical to public accountability, and they are going to negate the gains that the country has gained so far in the fight against corruption. Therefore, those amendments are not good for the fight against corruption, and the EACC expects the National Assembly to reject the amendments that were proposed by the Senate to that bill. If those amendments are allowed to become law, it means that the provision that required the suspension of persons under investigations will be gone. That means that the challenges that we have today of investigating people while they remain in office will still be there.
Nandi County Governor Stephen Sang has agreed to address grievances raised by the Gen Z regarding his administration. This comes after the youth stormed his office in Kapsabet town on Tuesday, demanding accountability of the county funds. The youth raised concerns over delayed implementation of projects, poor state of roads, acute shortage of drugs in health facilities, irregularities in employment of county staff, among others. The group carrying placards had blocked the county office entrance where the governor was holding an executive meeting. Sang cautioned the protesters against falling into the trap of goons out of their genuine use to raise concerns.
Accountability, but the only thing governor ameongelea hapa, ameongelea ECD peke yake. We need receipts, atuonyeshe kama hizo ECD sijui alisema ngapi zimejengwa, atupe hizo receipts.
In our county there are so many stalled projects, there are so many from the audit report there is no hakuna accountability for funds that were misused. There is so many, even our public hospitals we don't have medicines, in our dispensaries we don't have medicine.
Tunajua hii maneno ya Gen Z imekuwa ikianza kutoka kule Nairobi. Saa zingine unafikiria unaanza ni maneno ya Gen Z na maneno ya nini, lakini ndani yake iko wakora wanataka kuharibu na kufanya kazi. Kuna mambo ingine watu wa boda boda.
An easy calm has resumed at Reverend Canon Kuri Memorial Secondary School in Rabai a day after learning was disrupted. Parents had stormed the school demanding the immediate transfer of the school principal, citing poor performance of the learners. The irate parents argued since the school principal was posted to the institution 4 years ago, the performance was on a downward trajectory, calling on the ministry to transfer him.
The irate parents disrupted normal learning at the Reverend Canon Kuri Memorial Secondary School with a clarion call for the transfer of the school head. The parents say his arrival 4 years ago marked the onset of dismal performance by learners.
Alivyokuja hapa tulikuwa tuko around 2.6, sasa hii tumerudi 1.0 mean score.
Watoto wanafeli. Hata hivi mwaka huu haukuletwa watu wengi hapo kwa sababu hii Kuri imekuwa ni failure.
Despite his absence, the parents camped outside his office, forcing local authorities to intervene to calm them. The parents, however, insisted that the principal had to go.
Ministry of Education iweze kumchukua bwana Muguta wakamtafutia skuli.
Yeye akaja anasema hana haja kuongea na wazazi, ana haja na pesa.
Area Assistant County Commissioner Ahmed Mahmoud pledged to engage the relevant ministry for an amicable solution.
Wachague watu fulani, tukae kama watu wazima, mimi nichukue, niende kwa authorities concerned nione ile hatua tunaweza chukua.
Isfar reporting for Lunchtime News.
An altercation broke out at Nyateko Ward, Kitutu Church's South constituency, Kisii County, after the area county assembly member Amos Mokaya tried to stop the residents from rehabilitating a section of the rural road ahead of a funeral ceremony. Residents said a section of Nyateko Kiangoso Road at the boundary of Kisii, Nyamira counties has been impassable for several years. Thus, the irate residents resolved to work on it to allow transportation of the body of one of their own. The irate residents accused the area elected leaders of not prioritizing development projects as promised that include fixing the road networks.
Na tukakaa around 1 hour nikiongea nao wenye walikuwa na lima hiyo barabara ndio ipitike, lakini kwa bahati mbaya ama mzuri MCA wa Nyateko wote akakuja na watu wake wakaanza kupigana, lakini raia ni kama waliwazidi nguvu na hiyo mambo ikatulia, na sasa tumeweka ripoti polisi ili waweze kuchunguza. Ushauri wangu kwanza ni kwa viongozi ambao wamechaguliwa. Ukipata kuna shida mahali na wananchi wameamua kujifanyia, peana time, kwa sababu uongozi, mamlaka iko kwa wananchi, sio kwa mtu binafsi.
President William Ruto on Tuesday hosted leaders from Nakuru County for a consultative meeting as he sought to assure them of his support of key projects. Families and friends of 3 young men allegedly kidnapped in Isiolo town on Saturday morning are demanding the government takes immediate action to trace them. They accuse security agencies of being behind their abduction, calling for their release or arraignment in court if wanted for violating the law.
It's not up to date, and it's something we are working with on the minister, and it's good to acknowledge as it is, but it's not general in such a way that I would say even Vihiga is a victim. What Senator Osotsi can help me do is that in cases where there is an actual evidence that this is happening in this place, he can give me the information, even if it is not publicly, privately, because I don't need to fight with the MP.
Shakahola cult preacher Paul Mackenzie might be buried within the Shakahola forest following failure to positively identify their bodies. Chief Government Pathologist Johansen Udwor says there were possibilities of the unidentified bodies to be disposed of within the forest in marked graves that will make it easy to identify in the event that the DNA profiles of those bodies are generated.
34 out of the 453 bodies the alleged cult followers have so far been positively identified and handed over to relatives for burial, leaving 419 bodies whose process of identification is still ongoing. Chief Government Pathologist Dr. Johansen Odworu was presiding over the commencement of phase 5 of autopsies on the bodies preserved at the Malindi Sub-County Hospital morgue.
But the biggest challenge is reference sample. Reference sample is a sample which is obtained from the relatives, because not many relatives are willing to come and be part of the process. So they promise that they are still continuing with the process, and within time they'll be able to give us more results.
Dr. Dworu was flanked by the Homicide Director Martin Nyuguto, called on relatives of victims of those they suspect could have disappeared in Shakahola to visit any nearby government chemist to have their DNA samples taken.
The persons who have reason believe that they are people who died at the site, they should just come forward to any government chemist nearby so that now their sample can be taken for the purpose of cross-referencing.
He at the same time urging those who had already given their samples to patiently wait for the profiles to be generated.
I think our message is just be patient, because even the process of extraction of DNA is usually very, very complex. It's not like a test of malaria or typhoid, where you just go to the lab and get a result within a day. It's a very complex thing. And as I was talking to the analyst, because of the level of deterioration of the samples, decomposition, all that, they had to take to even run some samples several times to be able to come up with profiles.
Let's cross over now to the Jubilee headquarters in the county of Nairobi, where officials are holding a press conference. My colleague John Jacob Curia is on that bit. Let's cross over and listen in.
For our fallen heroes. Thank you very much.
Asante sana. Clearly, our modern day freedom fighters. And we say, Aruta, continua. The struggle continues. And we say, Viva?
Comrades, viva.
Viva, comrades, viva. And I think it's also important to say that those are not the full list of names. We know that there are those whom we may have missed. But crucially also, there are very many young people who have been abducted. And we also want to say that even those abducted, they need to be released. And police, the government, Yaruto, must stop abducting young people. They are also abducting even older generation. These
Officials from the Jubilee Party addressing members of the press. My colleague John Jacob Curia is on that bit. We'll be getting the developments as they unfold from that end and be sure to catch up with him in our subsequent bulletins in the day. In other news, a total of 316 Kenyans have lost their lives while working in the Gulf states in the last 1.5 years. This is according to statistics released by Prime Cabinet Secretary and CS for Foreign and Diaspora Affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, who appeared before the Senate Wednesday morning. Mudavadi indicated that a total of 416,548 Kenyans work in the Gulf states, with Saudi Arabia leading with 310,266 Kenyans. Saudi Arabia also has the highest number of Kenyans who have died while working in the country at 166 from the year 2022 to date. CS Mudavadi was also hard pressed to explain the safety of Kenyans in the Gulf, from recruiting agencies to support by the embassies.
It should be noted that not all Kenyans register with our missions abroad, despite being sensitized on the importance of such registrations. Hence, sometimes it is difficult to have very precise data. So, Madam Speaker, under the circumstances, it's not easy at this stage to be able to say that we can avail all the identities of these 416,000 individuals in the Gulf states.
That a whopping 316 of them have died while out of the country. It shows, Madam Speaker, that this answer will not only bolster the employers who, in one way or the other, contribute to the death of these people, but also it will discourage parents.
I can only appeal on one issue, that as we give the identities, Madam Speaker, you'll also need to guide on aspects of whether we'll be breaching some aspects of the data.
There are occasions where we are told that some of these people travel to those countries through unregistered cartels of some recruitment agencies which are not licensed by the government. So there is every possibility that those who die and they were taken there by these recruitment agencies, possibly the government does not have their data.
So on the websites of the State Department for Diaspora, we are able to indicate the licensed recruitment agencies, because in the past we have had cases where the senator is right that unscrupulous people have taken advantage and landed our Kenyan people in very difficult situations. So we are trying to streamline this, and in between.
Pastoral communities living in Laikipia North have been urged to embrace education as a way of helping them ditch harmful traditional practices such as cattle rustling, FGM, and early marriages. This was the clarion call by Laikipia North Member of Parliament Sarah Korere, who warned outdated practices were a major contributor to illiteracy, which was slowing development.
Speaking at Kurum area while commissioning a laboratory for Kurum Secondary School, Laikipia North MP Sarah Korere noted that illiteracy is a major contributor to the practices held by these communities. She said failure to have formal education has resulted to further marginalization of these communities.
Lakini tunasema katika jamii hii tuko na uwezo wa kutoa madaktari, tuko na uwezo wa kutoa mawakili, tuko na uwezo wa kutoa walimu na kila mtu, lakini hiyo haitawezekana iwapo hawa vijana hawatapata elimu.
The legislator urged parents to be at the forefront in championing for their children's education, vowing to continue building more schools to help in the education uptake.
Iwapo jamii hii na jamii ya wafugaji na jamii yote ya wale tunajiita tuko katika kaskazini mwa nchi hii, iwapo watawezeshwa kupitia kwa elimu, tutaweza kuona mabadiliko makubwa sana katika nchi hii yetu. Kwa mfano, tukisomesha watoto hata wajue masomo ya kilimo, wajue kufanya kilimo, watabadili pia maisha kupitia kufanya biashara zingine, ila tu ile ya kuchunga mifugo ambayo imekuwa ndio tegemeo letu peke yake.
Meanwhile, parents in the region have lauded efforts to boost literacy levels. They urge the government to continue supporting education programs in order to free the community from the yoke of poverty.
Sisi wenyewe wengi wetu hatujui la baraza nini, lakini sasa tumekuja kujua, na tangu masomo ikuje tumejua zaidi kuhusu masomo, na sisi tumefurahi sana na tunasema hongera sana.
Hata sisi tunajaribu kusukuma watoto wetu waendelee kusoma, kwa sababu hakuna mahali tunaweza enda bila masomo. Kwa wakati hii hata ukienda kufanya kazi nyingine bila masomo ni kazi ya bure.
Joseph Wahungu for Lunchtime News.
To health matters, Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Muchuma has faulted individuals she says are attempting to paint the Ministry of Health in bad light following the Occupy MOH demonstrations. In an 11-point statement, Muchuma says the ministry has held open and candid discussions with union officials and interns representatives, calling on the interns to report to their internship centers pending the resolution of the package. Further, the CS revealed as of today the number of interns awaiting posting across the cadres was 3,760 with a total budget of 4.6 billion shillings. However, due to the budget ceiling, the ministry received an allocation of 3.7 billion shillings in the financial year 2024-2025 for internship. From health to security matters, families and friends of 3 young men allegedly kidnapped in Isiolo town on Saturday morning are demanding the government takes immediate action to trace them. They accuse security agencies of being behind their abduction, calling for their release or arraignment in court if wanted for violating the law.
According to reports, 22-year-old Isa Osman Guyo, 27-year-old Nura Abdi Diba, and 35-year-old Mukhtar Tache Ali were having breakfast at a popular hotel in Isiolo town on Saturday when they were abducted by armed masked gunmen. The trio were bundled into 3 waiting vehicles, 2 black Toyota Prados and white Subaru, and driven towards Nairobi.
We have visited so many police stations, including even NIS headquarters in Nairobi. We don't know. We are totally in darkness. And this has really made us to be in a very worrisome state.
Family members who reported the matter to the Isiolo police station and the DCI offices believe the abductors were police officers. They stated that 5 youths were initially abducted, but 2 were released midway along the Isiolo-Nanyuki road stretch. The whereabouts of Isa, Nura and Mukhtar remain unknown.
Moja aliachiliwa just past Kisima. Walimwambia alale chini, wakamwambia asiinue kichwa mpaka waende mbali. That is the first guy walimdrop hapo. The second one walimdrop just before unaona hiyo stretch kabla hawajafika Timau. That is the second guy.
Human rights activists and family members have condemned the abduction, stating it violates constitutional principles and evokes memories of past extrajudicial killings.
All these boys are young people, but if there are any reasons why they are suspected to have committed any criminal offense, we demand that they be taken to court immediately.
We are sending a warning signal to the DCI head to take charge and bring to book the DCI officers in Isiolo who are misusing their power.
The families now want the police to act swiftly to trace their kin. Ben Chumba, Lunchtime News.
Welcome back, Ben Chumba. Good to have you again. In other news, Homa Bay Woman Representative Joyce Osogo Elias Bensouda has urged detectives to investigate incidents where individuals are using her name to con residents. The suspects reportedly call residents from various phone numbers demanding bribes for job opportunities. The scheme primarily targets graduates in desperate need of government employment, particularly with the Teachers Service Commission and the Public Service Commission. She has urged those who have fallen victim to file a complaint with authorities. She highlighted the issue while distributing over 15,000 bales of sanitary towels to adolescent girls in Kabondo Kasipul constituency.
There is conmanship developed by enemies whom I can't define. I want to condemn in the strongest possible terms. I am not an employing entity. Disassociate with that conmanship. I'm calling upon all the DCIs in each sub-county. Bensouda cannot accept her name to be tarnished by conmen that she's employing. I'm not an employing entity. Procedures of employment constitutionally is very clear.
Kwale County Woman Member of Parliament Fatuma Masito has called for an increase in the allocation of the National Government Affirmative Action Fund, NGAF, to address growing need of the community. Masito says the fund has greatly impacted women groups, persons living with disabilities, and a section of youth, especially at the grassroots level. She made the remarks during a forum for awarding of bursary checks for beneficiaries across Kwale County.
Tunashukuru Mungu, ni ajabu ambayo tujaona katika women rep wote walitoka waanze. Madam Masito alituzawadi mtambo, shukrani sana. Tunashukuru sana tena sana. Tunashukuru sana kwa Mwenyezi Mungu, atamjazia kwa sababu kupata kwetu sisi Mungu anamjazia zaidi, kwa sababu sisi tunashukurani kama walemavu.
Nimepeana ma tent 28 na nikapeana viti 2800 na nikapeana mashini za kusaga unga posho mill 14, nyingine za kutumia petroli na nyingine za kutumia diesel. Kuna wale wamepata bursaries, wanafunzi 510 kutoka Kwale County kwa jumla wameweza kupata ruzuku hiyo ya NGAF.
Locals in Busia County have been sensitized on how to deal with the worrying cases of child trafficking in the area. The Salvation Army Church, which spearheaded the exercise, urged locals to be very vigilant as criminals were crossing mainly from the porous border to prey on their children. The church says the traffickers were mainly scouting on gullible families and children from disadvantaged backgrounds for their evil plans.
Huduma hii especially kwa makanisa. Unajua ni kanisa likiingia hapa mtapata usaidizi.
Kitu ambacho kilifanya ya kwamba tukuje sehemu hii, tuliona ya kwamba kuna watu wengi hawana ujumbe kuhusu ulanguzi wa binadamu, na tukaona katika kuhamasisha watu tumepata kwamba kuna victims, wale watu ambao wametrafikiwa katika sehemu ya Busia town karibu watu 10, na sehemu za Malaba tuko na watu karibu 14.
Busia ulanguzi wa wanadamu uko katika hali ya juu kwa sababu hao wako kwenye mpaka, na unakuta ya kwamba ni watu wengi wanasafirishwa kutoka nchi yetu ya Kenya kwenda kule Uganda, kwenda hadi nchi zingine, na pia kuna watu ambao wanasafirishwa kutoka nchi zingine.
27 minutes past the top of the hour. We are taking our first commercial break. We'll be back with more, including news-making headlines in the world of business and sports. Stay with us.
Unajua, token meter yako inahitaji system update. Ni rahisi na ni free.
Ukipata ujumbe kutoka Kenya Power, yani SMS, weka kodi ya kwanza kureset, alafu weke kodi ya pili kuupdate ili token mita yako iendelee kufanya kazi kama kawaida. Update token mita yako. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Kenya Power and Lighting Company.
Enjoy na GoTV. Beste yako wafuta. Tuna connect na ligi zote. Jishikie GoTV leo nice na the best futa live on SuperSport. GoTV. Love it.
Join me on a journey as we unlock the secrets of a healthier and vibrant you. We'll also share real-life stories of courage and resilience. Plus, we provide practical health tips for living a healthy lifestyle, no matter what challenges you may face.
What's up guys, this is Malku. Unajua nini? Nimekuja at Kenya Coast National Polytechnic and I'm here kukupatia form. Sasa form ni gani? Form ni hivi, Friday, next coming Friday, yani 12th of July, we'll be camping here. Tutakuja hapa kuanzia mida ya saa 3 mpaka saa 6. Myself, the whole crew, me, Ken Wanjibi and Gets, we're bringing you so much more. Kama vipi Ken?
Vibes mbinguni. Dancers wakali kutoka Vipawa Academy, interviews kali pamoja na wasanii wakali kutoka pande hizi. Kumbuka kitu ambacho kipo tunajiachia mjengoni this Friday. Mashavu ndio mpango mzima, usikose jamaa Kamini kwa bondo makuchani mastikon kibetini astoko na tunaziwasha rangwa wada na mastim hadi rangwa kute zimeshika na sitemi ni mapema nduku sikitims unasema ingine nenda chini peri.
Welcome back. You're watching the Lunchtime News. In other news this afternoon, the government has adopted various prudent fiscal policies to enhance revenue collection to ease the widening budget deficits. Treasury Cabinet Secretary Njuguna Ndung'u says the government plans to cut budget deficits to 3.3% of gross domestic product in the current financial year from 5.7% in fiscal year 2023-2024. This comes even as the Intergovernmental Authority on Development report shows that Kenya has the second largest fiscal deficit in the region.
According to a recent report by the Intergovernmental Authority on Development (IGAD), Kenya registered a fiscal deficit of 6.3% in 2022, trailing South Sudan, which recorded the highest deficit at 6.6%. Uganda followed in third position with a budget deficit of 5.3%. The fiscal deficit, which represents the gap between a government's revenue and its expenditure, highlights the ongoing economic challenges faced by the member states. The report highlighted Kenya's significant deficit, which reflected the government's increased spending on infrastructure and social programs against a backdrop of economic recovery efforts post-pandemic and rising debt levels.
How are the economies working? Are they working towards the objectives for which IGAD was created? Those are the questions we want to be asking. And this is a very, very important statistics yearbook so that we can be using it to analyze the direction that the IGAD is taking, the objective for which IGAD was created, and then even ourselves in individual countries we ask, how can we compare in terms of what we really wanted to do? What kind of information are we providing to the IGAD? And is it timely data? Is it appropriate? Is it accurate data? Can we use it for policy analysis? Those are the kind of questions that we can say.
National Treasury Cabinet Secretary Professor Njuguna Ndung'u says the economic outlook remains positive due to effective policy implementation and regional stability.
To look for investments across the region. Are there firms that are coming and settling in the region and investing across the region? Are they trading? Are the countries in IGAD trading with each other? Are they providing public goods across each other? That is what regional integration is all about. Whichever topic you come up with, you can relate it to the statistics that can be provided.
Frederick Muki for Lunchtime News.
Tatu City is accusing Kiambu County government of delays in approving its master plan. The developer says the 18-month delay risks the loss of 16 billion shillings in investment for the mixed development project. According to Preston Mendenhall, the new master plan was to expand housing, BPOs, retail business, software and office space, which would create 4,500 new jobs.
Wamatangi's extortionate delay has cost the county and country more than 16 billion Kenyan shillings. That's about 125 million US dollars in additional investment in the country and county, and it has also cost 4,500 new jobs for young Kenyans. Updating our master plan is something we have to have the right to do every 3 years. We make updates to our master plan to adapt the development of Tatu City to Kenya's dynamic market. For example, we may find that we need more affordable housing. We might see a higher demand for affordable housing. We might see that we need more schools. We might see that we need more areas for call centers that create thousands of jobs. So at that point, when we understand the demand of the market, we evolve the master plan.
Across the borders, Taiwan's semiconductor manufacturing company has reported strong growth in second quarter revenue that handily beat market forecasts on the back of booming demand for artificial intelligence applications. The company has benefited from the surge towards AI that has helped it with the weakening of pandemic-led demand and pushed its shares price to a record high. Details of this and more in the news from across the globe.
The world's largest contract ship maker forecast second quarter revenue in a range of between $19.6 to $20.4 billion. The company scheduled to report a 30% on-year rise in second quarter earnings and outlook on plans for the current quarter and the rest of the year. Its shares closed up 0.5% ahead of the release of the sales data, in line with the broader markets. The shares have risen 76% so far this year, compared with a 34% gain, briefly boosting the firm's market value to $1 trillion. Meanwhile, Saudi Arabia has raised a total of $12.35 billion from a secondary shale sale in Aramco after the Saudi oil giant exercised an over-allotment option. The deal is the culmination of a years-long effort to sell another chunk in one of the world's most valuable companies, in aim to generate more funds to push ahead with its economic diversification plan. Aramco hired banks to sell bonds maturing in 10, 30 and 40 years, a move set to raise at least $3 billion across the 3 tranches. And finally, global shipments of personal computers recorded a rise due to increasing demand for AI-capable devices, with Apple seeing the biggest growth among the PC makers. Shipments reached 64.9 million units in the first quarter of the year, marking a second straight quarter of growth after 2 years of decline. The market for PCs is expected to rebound from a lull in orders following the pandemic-driven buying spree and a commercial refresh cycle. China's Lenovo Group saw the highest market share of 22.7%, followed by HP with 21.1%. Dell Technologies' market share was at 15.5%, while its shipments fell 2.4%. Anne Mwendwa for Lunchtime News.
Plans are underway to introduce cruise tourism within the Lake Basin region to tap the unexplored Western tourism circuit. Kenya Tourism Board says the introduction of cruise ships will identify unique selling propositions that will elevate tourist experiences and stimulate domestic tourism.
The Kenya Tourism Board has embarked on strategic partnership engagements with county governments to unlock tourism potential in different tourism circuits in the country. As a result, regional tourism from the major East African states of Uganda and Tanzania could easily be strengthened if lake transport was developed and proper accommodation established along the lake's beaches. Under the framework, the Kenya Tourism Board plans to sample various historical sites, culture and birds, among other attractions. Through cruise ships, tourists can sample more sites on the counties sharing Lake Victoria and the neighboring countries of Uganda and Tanzania.
We are saying, come to the other parts of Kenya. You know, when you look at Lake Victoria, who said we cannot do cruise tourism there? Okay, so there is offers of cruise tourism. You're looking at investors who can invest in cruises. They live here, they go to Mwanza, they on a cruise ship.
Additionally, the Kenya Tourism Board is calling upon investors to foster partnerships that will capitalize on the opportunities present in each county, highlighting the pivotal role of private sector engagement in enhancing tourism infrastructure and experiences.
We are encouraging the tourists to come, and also we are opening all these new destinations. When had we spoken before about Kisumu and the Western Circuit being a destination? Because we are showing culture, we are showing friendship, and we are showing different destinations. A lot of people are coming. And that's why we will get to the 3.3 million figure.
Guests are always looking for new experience, and that is what we offer. That interest is also extended to the government. That has been reflected by the support we've always gotten from the tourism bodies, the parastatals, the state corporations, which are within the tourism ministry.
The Kenya Tourism Board says it's banking on cruise tourism to increase the number of tourists visiting the country, which has increased steadily to 1.48 million tourists in 2022 to 1.95 million tourists in 2023. Ndota Mokami for Lunchtime News.
Glad you're watching the Lunchtime News. Time to get to the fields. And in the world of sports, the Kenya women's volleyball team head coach Japheth Munala has named the final 13-member squad that will take part in the Olympic Games in Paris, France. Malkia Strikers is expected to leave for Miramas tonight for a 2-week training camp before traveling to Paris for the Olympics. The squad, which will be captained by middle blocker Triza Atuka and her assistant Edith Wusa, consists of libero Agrippina Kundu, setters Esther Mutinda, Immaculate Nekesa, outside hitters Leonida Kasaya, Pamela Adhiambo, and opposite Sharon Chepchumba, among others. Meldina Sunday has been dropped from the squad. Kenya warmed up for the Olympic Games by participating in the FIVB Challenger Cup in Manila, Philippines, where they were knocked out in the quarterfinals by Puerto Rico. At the Paris Olympics, Kenya will begin its Group B matches against Tokyo 2020 silver medalists Brazil before facing Japan and Poland. The Olympic Games are scheduled to start on the 26th of July to 11th August this year. Barcelona's Lamine Yamal made history in the European Championship when he became the youngest player at 16 years of age to score in the tournament's history when Spain beat France 2-1 in the semi-finals of the 2024 edition at the Allianz Arena. Spain will face either England or the Netherlands in the finals, with the two teams facing off tonight in the second semi-final. Les Blues took only 8 minutes to go into the scores hit first through a Kolo Moani header from Mbappe's cross, but they only had 13 minutes to celebrate before it was cancelled with a touch of genius. Lamine Yamal, who will turn 17 on Saturday, carried a beautiful shot in the top corner.
Wants to get forwards. Danny Olmo, instant control. Can he put it away? Danny Olmo, instant control. Can he put it away? It's gone in. Off Jules Koundé. Instant control. Can he put it away? It's gone in. Off Jules Koundé. Wants to get forwards. Danny Olmo, instant control. Can he put it away? It's gone in. Off Jules.
All right, we've come to the end of Channel 1 Lunchtime News. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your feedback on our social media platforms. For more details on ad items and many more, do log on to www.kbc.co.ke. My name is Irene Muchuma, and on sign language we have Brian Muraru. And as we wind up this, we leave you with this week's episode of Military Tales by Ben Troy Njue. Enjoy.
A 21-gun salute is the most commonly recognized of the customary gun salutes that are performed by the firing of cannon or artillery as a military honor. Firing cannons is a maritime tradition that dates back to the 14th century, and in Kenya, the Navy leads the country in this exercise.
The Indian Ocean. The Kenyan coastline stretches about 600 kilometers from the north coast to the south coast, and these territorial waters have to be guarded. And that is the work of our sea warriors, the Kenya Navy. We are actually en route to Mtongwe to meet one Kenya Navy veteran who braved the ocean currents and strong winds to defend our country.
Asante sana. Hapa naitwa Bububu. Sani Bububu. Karibu kwa nyumba ya hilo Rwanda Class 1. Asante sana. Thank you. Umefika chai? Tumefika chai. Karibu. Chai. Asante.
After we break bread, we have a sit down with him as he takes us through his early life and his journey as a seaman.
Kwa majina naitwa Antanas Nyairo Nyamboga. Nilisaliwa West Mugrango, Mira County, in 1962. I went in primary schools Munyaiguba. Nilimaliza now nikiwa standard 7. I joined immediately Kimalisa 7. I also joined the secondary, which is opposite. So Nkamalisa Form 4, 1980. So Nka joined 84. Nilijoin Kenya Defense Forces. Wakati tulimaliza recruitment, sikujua kwamba there was a Navy. I only knew there was an Army. So kufika pale watusomea kwamba sasa hii ni Navy, hii ni Army, hii ni Air Force. So nikapata niko kwa Navy. Ndio ngajoin nikaingia tukaenda college FTC Nakuru. In fact 84 ndio we were the last people kufanya course na Ranet. When we came to Mombasa, tukaanza course 4 weeks. Naanza course ndio uchagulie kuingia. Which section do you prefer to be? So tukafanya course ya 4 weeks. Ndio mimi nikachaguliwa kwa technician, armament technician.
Tupatie majukumu ya armament technician ili watazamaji waweze kuelewa swali.
Yeah, armament tech ni watu wanadili na weapons. These are big guns like boffer gun, Oricon, twin barrel, all types of weapon on board. Na ndio watu armament they are dealing with it. Hao ndio technicians. So we tukamaliza for 3 years kusoma kwa shule.
As an armament technician and young soldier, he had his first dive in the rough seas after training.
Tukimaliza, when you go on, you have to go on board because hizi bunduki zote ziko on board. We have those ships, tunaenda for testing, tunaenda bahari kutesti bunduki.
Roger, I now have the gun control.
Bunduki ikiwa iko na shida, wanaita workshop. We have a workshop which is near the ship.
In 1998, he was promoted to a sergeant and also became an instructor in the naval school.
Tupatie hiyo safari ya kuwa mwalimu.
So when I joined the sergeant, I went to naval training school. Kafunda for 16 years. So nikiwa hapo naval training school, nilipata senior sergeant. Na the same hapo nilipata one officer class 2. Yeah, so nilifundisha for 16 years. Nilikuwa nafundisha mambo ya weapon, mambo ya, we have so many types of weapons. Tuko na G3, tuko na RMG, but now me kuna nafundisha Oricon. Oricon, this is not to make because the exam. I was promoted to one of class 2 within 13 years, which is not easy.
Nyairo was among officers selected for a national arms marking exercise in 2011.
I went to DOD to cancel mambo ya arms marking. This arms marking ni one way to know every weapon. Kama ni ya Kenya Navy, Kenya Air Force, Kenya Army, Kenya Police, AP. At any given time ikipatikana, it will be known this one in ya Kenya Navy.
He would later on join the naval saluting gun team, and he explains when the saluting gun is used.
Iliingia mambo ya saluting gun. Saluting gun is the only saluting gun in the KDF, iko Navy. So at any given time, any president incoming, we have to give him a honor ya 21 gun salute. Na gun salute inafanya vitu vitatu. One, when any new president comes in, tunafanya 21. Ya pili, the president akifa, we have to do that one. Again, when the inauguration in the ceremony, we also do that. Yeah. Now, not only the president, at the CDF backup brigadier, wanafanyia 21 gun salute. In fact, ndio tunaiendelea, then mpaka saa hii iko Nairobi. Tulitoa hapa Mombasa, tukabeka Nairobi because Nairobi ndio function iko. Ni wanamaji peke yao. Ndio this gun ilitoka Plain. It is a Plain na ilikuwa on board. Inakuwa mounted on board. So wakati ilikuwa hivyo, because it's a ceremony, wakaona it's a good thing because ni kitu mzuri, kwa sababu ukipigiwa naona kama ni kama hilo wakati wanaenda bario, sio nasikia 21 gani sasa inapigwa. So wakaona the best way waje tuipeleke Nairobi kwa sababu ni karibu. In fact, it's a time with the watu wa army walikuwa wanataka kuichukua, but then Mwatete was then CDF. Akasema no, akaitetea, asema this naval gun mpaka ipaki huko. So it's only the Navy. Ndio naona watu wanafanya hiyo Navy.
As one of the soldiers tasked with manning the gun, he had an opportunity to travel to South Sudan for the inauguration of President Salva Kiir.
For this gun, kuwapagia Salva Kiir, wakati ilikuwa inauguration, sisi tulienda kumfanyia hiyo ceremony. So we went for just one, it was about 2 months. No. Because tulienda kufanyia exercise, na tulikuwa kikosi king from the Navy, from the Army. We go, those people, they had no know-how, but ready, everything, even mambo ya escort and whatever, walikuwa trained. So nilienda huko, tukafanya hiyo shughuli for 1-2 months, then we came back.
As a sea officer, Nyairo had one brush with death during one of his guard duties in a warship.
There's a time when I was a senior private, in Kichunga, nkaenda on board. Ilikuwa usiku saa 8. So mtu amekuja kunilive, kusuka kutoka pale chini mpaka juu, kama ile mtu juu iko ngazi na niko na bunduki. It happened nimetresa. Nilikuwa niingie katikati ya pontoon, that's what we call a pontoon, na meri. Niingie katikati, lakini Mungu akanisaidia. akawa ile bunduki ya mihuku kwa ile ngazi, na hiyo ndio ilipata changamoto mpaka saa hii nakumbuka.
Nyairo reminds seamen and other soldiers on the importance of remaining true to country and duty. He remembers some of the changes in the military that was spearheaded by former Chief of Defense Forces General retired Daudi Tonje.
Bakijoin, wanasema join the Navy and see the world. When you have joined the Navy, jitolee fanya kazi yako. So when you join the Navy, enjoy it. Penda kazi yako na ujue kama iko Bira 5. The Bira 5 is after retirement. So mpaka you have to set up. When you get in the forces, ujue kama there is going out. So you have to start from the scratch. Kura 5, weka 5.
Nyairo remembers the instrumental role the Navy played during the takeover of Kismayo during Operation Linda Nchi, spearheaded by the Kenya Defense Forces.
It is true, the Navy, in fact, tangu niliingia improve sana, especially ukiangalia wakati wa Somalia. In fact, it was a Navy ilikuwa inabeba watu wa hami, inabeba na meli, na ina wa trop uko Somalia Kismayo. Na wa trop wanatoka watembea. So it is a very big improvement. Yes, but the naval ile bunduki yetu ya 76 inaenda 6 kilometers effective range. So tulienda tukaiweka ndio gasikie kapomoa Kismayo. Si watu wa army, Navy ndio ilipomoa kio kwa bahari on the land. Ikapiga ile mahali walikuwa wamechificha ikapomoa. So ikasaidia watu wa army bakapata nafasi kaingia.
Now retired, the former seaman is now a full-time farmer.
Nianza tu kuweka kuku, this is about kuku kama ya 3 hivi. Nilianza na 50, kuweka kidogo just kudimuju kidogo. Nyumbani nimelima around 1.5 acres mahindi, niko na chai ya 3/4 acre, almost acre. Na niko naye na nafikiri mkitoka hapa nitawapatia kila mtu avocado 2 nimetoa nyumbani.
After serving the country with honor and bravery, he rallies Kenyans to remain peaceful at all times for prosperity.
Amani ni kitu ya muhimu sana. That's why we are the way we are. Because as we are talking now, I know iko watu wa kuinje wa kuchunga inchi. Na ile kitu iliyoko tu ni kuwaombea wherever they are now, kwa sababu bila amani we cannot acquire anything.
Silent and deadly, the Kenya Navy guards our seas against any incursions to ensure Kenya is safe. For Military Tales, I'm Ben Troy Njue.